age and stumble on a change. Now I'm a young man, but that mad at the world and even younger man's game. Have fun in that lane, shit.
This conference has given us means to contribute to the whole of life in this country on a grand scale. The convening of mayors of different party affiliations and backgrounds, different upbringings and geographical perspectives, brought together to collaborate for a purpose that accomplished far greater collectively than we could ever do separately. Recognizing that cities are not only where our people live, it's also where they hope and where they dream. It's where their passions live. The heart of the people is found in our cities. And we have a lot to be proud of here. We are not some homogeneous assembly of identical faith and experience. We have no litmus tests. We have no loyalty oath. We have no voter ID. Instead, we are a congregation of diversity, a delegation of variety, a convention that defies convention. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, your race, your creed, your color, your sexual orientation or national origin, what God you pray to, or if you pray at all, we join together in the same spirit of brotherhood, sisterhood, and community. The future of our country depends on us. I'm a mayor because we have to embrace that responsibility.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our closing plenary luncheon. To begin, I want to encourage everyone to participate in the fabulous workshops that our host, Marty Walsh, has arranged for us this afternoon. They focus on autonomous vehicles, housing affordability, and second chances through apprenticeships. Details on those workshops are in your program and also on our USCM app. I'd like to take a brief moment to recognize our friend, the mayor of Rochester, Minnesota, Ardell Breedy, and take a moment of personal privilege to recognize him as our advisory board member, as a leader in civility, and just a good man. He's been a wonderful friend of this organization. He's been the mayor of Rochester, Minnesota since January of 2003. He has helped lead our Veterans Affairs Task Force for many years, has been a voice for compassion and reason within our organization. Mayor Breedy and his dear wife Judy are so much a part of the fabric of this organization. So please join me in welcoming Rochester, Minnesota Mayor Ardell Breedy to the stage.
Thank you, President Benjamin, and thanks for the recognition that the U.S. Conference of Mayors has allowed me to be a better and more compassionate mayor for my city. And it's given me additional credibility due to the knowledge I've received by being a member. Programs like the Mayor's Institute on City Design helped transform the Peace Plaza in our downtown, and a trip to Saudi Arabia with 9 other mayors gave me, and staff, gave me the connection to many of the international visitors and residents of Rochester. But most importantly, I get great value in the friendships that were developed over these 16 years with conference staff and with all of you mayors here in the United States and indeed across the world. So thank you so much for this recognition and the wonderfulness of being a part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you.
Say thanks again to Mayor Breedy. Please. Now we're so happy to have our friend Mayor Marvin Rees all the way from the United Kingdom here this afternoon to give remarks. Mayor Rees was born and raised in Bristol in the southwest of England, a champion of racial equality when he became mayor of Bristol in 2000. 16, Operation Black Vote, he said that he become Europe's first ever directly elected mayor of African Caribbean descent. Marvin studied in both the UK and here in the United States. He earned his bachelor's degree in economic history and politics and then a master's degree in political theory in government. He is a Yale University World Fellow and has worked for the BBC as a presenter and journalist. Marvin's lifelong commitment to public service started early on, working in international development and the UK's National Health Service. He often speaks of his mixed heritage. His father arrived in England as a 12-year-old from Jamaica. His mother's of English, Welsh, and Irish heritage. His wife is American, brother-in-law Swiss, and most of his Jamaican family live in Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Maryland as Jamericans. Mayor Reese currently leads the Global Parliament of Mayors. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Marvin Reese.
All right, thank you very much for your very kind welcome, and thanks for your welcome to the United States. I am actually here most summers anyway. My mother-in-law is sitting in the crowd somewhere. Do you want to wave, Margene? There she goes. And my sister-in-law as well. But yeah, fellow mayors, distinguished guests, I think it was the 19th century preacher, Charles Wesley, who said if you're going to speak for more than 10 minutes, you either need to be an angel or speaking to angels. Well, this is the last slot. I know many of you want to go home. I've been asked to do 20 minutes, and I'm not an angel. So I have high hopes for all of you in the audience today. So the movement of people has been a fact of human civilization ever since there has been human civilization. But the challenges and opportunities we face today are more complex and more dynamic than they ever have been before. The EU member states received 1.2 million first-time asylum applications in 2015, sparking a political and humanitarian crisis, the ramifications of which are still unfolding today. And it certainly contributed to the United Kingdom's decision to leave the EU. But according to some estimates, as many as 200 million people could be climate change refugees by the middle of the century. If the EU struggles to control its borders when just 1.2 million people have to move, what will happen if 200 million do? Now, the current configuration of nation-state politics is both directly and indirectly creating and compounding migration push factors such as inequality, climate change, and political insecurity. And it's then failing to deal with the consequences in a way that either recognizes the equal worth of migrants or provides social stability. Now, of course, individual political actors and parties play a role in this. Policy does matter. But there is a deeper problem at work here, and it's in the inability of the nation-state, with its historic commitment to hard boundaries, control, defined identities, and, dare I say, debate rather than delivery, to support the kind of political leadership capable of meeting the migration challenge in front of us. Nation-states may simply lack the tools needed to meet the challenges of migration and many other challenges today. In the 19th and 20th centuries, both of our countries had powerful stories about who we were and what we were. That generated an extraordinary collective energy. But in the last few decades, we've seen those simple narratives become increasingly brittle and fractured. Now, despite having British blood, as you've heard, that goes back centuries, there are no national conversations in my country about identity and belonging that fail to leave me feeling a little cold. It seems increasingly clear to me that the national level of politics alone is simply incapable of renewing a compelling vision of shared identity that is fit for purpose in the 21st century. Our interdependent world needs leaders with emotional intelligence, mutual understanding, multidimensional worldviews, and empathy. Instead, we get crassness and obstructionism, better suited to the old binary zero-sum world where the interests of discrete nation-states could be pursued irrespective of the interests of others. Now, people have always moved around, and they've always come together forming and growing cities for education, culture, employment, growing national economies. Cities are growing at a rapid rate again, and that's why people are looking to city leaders like us in a new way. There's a growing belief that cities are best placed to bring difference together for the common good. As you've heard, I'm a product of migration. As a mixed-race man of African, Caribbean, English, Welsh, and Irish heritage, with an American wife and a Swiss brother-in-law, migration is not an abstract issue for me. It's my family. It's who I am. And as a man and a mayor, I am a product of my city. In Bristol, my colleague, Councillor Hibak Jama, is a former Somali refugee and was elected to sit alongside me as a city leader. My deputy mayor, Asher Craig, is, I'm told, Europe's first Rasta deputy mayor. Craig Cheney, my other deputy mayor, comes from a white working class background. One of 13 children, he experienced the extreme poverty and on occasion eating his food from a bin as a child. That's a trash can, for the translation. And Craig will thank me for the explanation. But today, Craig sits as my head of finance, overseeing a £1 billion budget for my city. My chief of staff grew up in one of the poorest estates in Bristol. His family, white working class, still lives there. And together, we lead close to our city, in the city's interest. Refugee, migrant, child of migrant, a member of the indigenous population. Cities are the places where we come together. Cities are the places where we must get things done. And we live with the immediate benefits and the costs of success and failure. As city leaders, I say we should bring our strengths together and bring our optimism to bear in reshaping the way politics works at the national and international level. We need global governance to move into its next iteration. And that means the representatives of international networks of cities sitting alongside national actors in shaping the national and international context in which we must live. At this moment, we find ourselves trying to lead a 21st century world with 20th century political structures. People have always known that nations working alone weren't enough. That's why nations banded together. But whereas before they looked up and across to collaborate, I suggest that today they need to look inward and across, city to city. The political innovation migration needs will come from international collections of cities. We're known for creating best practices and sharing best practices. We now need the space to create the new international politics. 3 weeks ago, I was invited to speak at the negotiations on the Global Compact for Migration at the United Nations. Now, surprisingly, or perhaps not surprisingly, up till that point, there had been no formal city input to those negotiations. And despite naming a host of actors, political actors, nowhere did the compact explicitly mention city government. Now, this is an important process politically, as it's the first time that countries have come together to regulate immigration. When President Trump withdrew from the negotiations last December, US cities, and many of you here today, passed a similar message on as you did around climate change, that you were still at the table to figure out today's biggest problems together. And as I pointed out in my speech at the United Nations, most migrants leave cities, go to cities, and return to cities. Roughly 20% of migrants worldwide live in just 20 cities. Over 70% of the draft Compact for Migration's objectives can only be fully realized with the active participation of city authorities. And I might add that cities can lead even where national governments are failing to deliver or even opposing the compact. Its authors know they need to make it real and that cities are critical to that. The challenge they face is how to harness the collective and legitimate voice of cities in support of the compact's aims. And that's why they are so keen to come to the Global Parliament and Mayors Summit, which will be held in my city of Bristol this October, where we'll continue this dialogue together. So as I said, I'll be hosting the Global Parliament and Mayors in Bristol in October. Our aim is to bring together mayors and the leaders of the various city networks for 3 days of hard work, where we commit to getting ourselves as an international network of cities and city networks better organized. You know, at the moment, there are over 200 city networks in the world, in various states of non-cooperation and sometimes even cooperation. Now, in the Global Parliament of Mayors, we're not trying to create another network to add to the complexity of existing city networks, but rather we're putting out an appeal. And what we want to do is try to establish the space where at least once a year, mayors and the leaders of the various city networks can come together to agree focus and coordination. My request is that as a global network of cities, we can come together to agree focus on a small number of critical areas in which we want to make progress. Migration is one. But my other appeal is that we begin to formalize the way our networks work with each other. Just think of the additional power available through a formal working alliance between the US Conference of Mayors and the Eurocities, the network of European cities. The prize of better organization is greater influence. But I fear the price of not getting ourselves organized will be diminishing returns from the many, many city meetings city leaders like myself and many of you in the room are asked to attend on a weekly basis. If we don't get our networks organized, we'll be charged with having a confused voice on the issues that matter. And I fear that after a period of frustration, the world's key decision makers will move on without us. So we need to begin working with our interdependencies. We need city networks such as Metropolis, Resilient Cities, C40, UCLG, ICLE to work with us on this. And at the very least, we need to get them to coordinate their diaries. A very simple but a complex task to ensure that we as mayors aren't pulled in 15 different directions at the same time and our impact diluted. I believe the Global Compact for Migration is an exciting opportunity for cities to test the full potential of our influence. We can ensure that from this point on, the city voice is included at every stage of these negotiations. This will be before us at the Global Parliament and Mayors Summit in October, and there are others on topics such as population health, resilience and security that will also be trying to get cities to focus in on. In my city, I've worked to develop an approach we call big offer and big ask. So I say to the many people that want to lobby me, rather than just coming and asking me for things, or even sometimes as they want to, demanding things of me, I challenge people to come and make me an offer. I say to people in my city, tell me what big thing you want to get done for the city, and then tell me what you need from me and the city to enable you to do it. I think it's a much more proactive, empowering, constructive approach. And that's the spirit in which I come to you today. And so I'd like to make you, as a US Conference of Mayors, an offer. And it is this, and I believe I have it on good authority, that Bristol and many cities around the world will back you as American mayors as you take a stand on the issues that matter, from migration to climate change. We recognize your leadership in this areas, and we thank you for it. Our ask is that you do actually do that you do lead. And our ask is that you recognize US cities as the source of global political hope that you are at this time. That you recognize that US cities are not only national leaders, but by very virtue of the nation of which you are part, you are international leaders, and you set an international standard, whether you know it or not. The whole world is watching what you do. And we recognize that you are not just nation shapers, you are global shapers. So in these challenges of organizing the world's cities, I ask you to take a lead in that, in challenging the existing networks to get better organized, to get more organized, and to work with us on that. And on that front, I'd say I'd like to welcome any and all of you to Bristol to advance this work at this year's Global Parliament of Mayors. I say, let's work together to target the international bodies from whom we want to have formal city representation. Now, in conclusion, I'd just like to say that I believe this moment has found us as city leaders. When I was elected 2 years ago, I didn't come into office with an international agenda. I didn't come in aiming to be standing on this stage at the US Conference of Mayors just after 2 years of office. It's just something that's come upon us. And I think the same goes for all of us. What we found is a world in which national governments are not delivering. We found a world in which people are increasingly disillusioned with politics, where services are failing to reach, where the global economy is failing to include people, and people and environmental trends seem to be beyond our control, leaving people vulnerable to being seduced by simplistic analysis that I would say, speaking from a European and a UK perspective, of people who are potentially political charlatans, offering wrong answers to the right problems. And I believe that as city leaders at this time, we have no choice but to step into that political vacuum. We have to get organized. An observation by Martin Luther King I love, and I've shared with a number of people in my city, says that power doesn't come neatly wrapped in government parcels. It's a social force, and it's available to all of us, but it's available to us, those of us who get organized. Conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat, we can't look around right now and think we're making a good job of this planet. We need to organize ourselves to exert our influence. We are interdependent. You fought to move from dependence to independence in your history. I'm minded of Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who says, as children, we go from dependence to independence. But the highest state, the most mature state of being, is to recognize our interdependence. So now I ask you to fight for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Reese. As we conclude this meeting, first I want to recognize Mayor Mitchell Andrew. I saw Walt in the room somewhere. Mayor Andrew is in here. I want to again thank Mitch for his incredible service to this organization. Another round of applause for Mayor Andrew, please. And as we conclude this meeting, you should be, of course, very familiar with the fact that our theme for the next 2 years is what, guys? Infrastructure, inclusion, and innovation. All right, our pillars for the next 2 years that will seek to inspire all of us to do great things together. Our conference supports our work every single day, and we look forward to finding new ways, more ways, to try and continue moving our great cities and this great country forward. I am excited to announce that this fall, the conference, along with founding sponsor Verizon and with New York University's Robert F. Wagner Graduate School of Public Service, will launch the Mayor's Leadership Institute on Smart Cities. This initiative will support your work by examining how we prepare our cities to harness the energy of the innovation economy, solve our city's pressing challenges, and improve the quality of life for our respective citizens. It's going to start by helping us all develop our own visions, our own smart city vision, help us address some of our most pressing challenges by deploying new technologies, thoughtful policy making, and making necessary regulatory changes in our own unique cities. Every city is built differently, and we have to make sure that our mayors are empowered with what we need so that we are indeed leading this discussion. I want to thank our friends at Verizon for being a founding sponsor of this work, but I will tell you that we will be supporter agnostic. We want everyone at the table, every single person who has an interest in supporting our member mayors in making great decisions to make their cities better. So this will be an exciting process. All of you will be receiving information about how to potentially participate in this Leadership Institute. So stay tuned this summer as we build this effort. Before we close, I want to highlight the rest of the day's events. First, as I said earlier, there'll be a variety of host city workshops this afternoon. Check your app or check the program to see those. And of course, we'll finish the conference with a celebration tonight at America's beloved ballpark, Fenway Park. I know some Yankee fans and other fans might not see it as beloved, but Fenway is singular, and it's going to be pretty exciting. Before we adjourn this meeting, I do want to ask all of you to give a great round of applause to the men and women who served us this weekend. My mom and dad are at the back of the room, and they would tell you I didn't always pick up my plate at home either growing up. But we know that this entire effort has taken a great deal of work from the men and women who just made this successful. In front of the screen, behind the screen, it's just been fantastic and well done. And again, Tom, I want to thank you and your staff. I know that myself, Brian, Greg, and the entire leadership team here at the conference are just excited. With that, this session and the 86th annual meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors is adjourned. God bless you.